Okay, guys, this will be another installment on the Healing with Children series. Again, I'm just trying to, right now, these first three videos, I'm just trying to relate my own children's stories and give examples of how I'm integrating the shame and guilt and recognizing and accepting the facts and reality of the situation with my healing, while at the same time, having these children and having to deal, with those issues because I am the one responsible for them being here. So this will be the last one relating my kids into all this, and this one will be on my youngest son, Aiden. Before I do, I just wanted to say, because I did not touch on this either, as far as Brandon goes, he lives here, he's healing, I'm healing. You guys see our videos, but we're not up each other's ass. I give him his space, he gives me mine. That I need tons of space for my healing. I need tons of alone time to be able to process and fully process this whole thing. There's a lot of baggage and shit and things to process and go through and understand and comprehend and come to terms with. And so I require a lot of alone time. Brandon does too. Brandon writes a lot. I mean, I've never seen anybody, I don't care, anybody in college, anybody anywhere, I've never seen anybody write as much as he does. He's filled out more notebooks of writing over the past 5 years or so that I've watched him. It's unreal. I can't. Must have a box full of fucking notebooks that he just writes in constantly. So he obviously, sees the benefit and enjoys and utilizes that alone time as well. I'll go downstairs and he's downstairs writing. I don't say a word to him. I go down, do what I got to do. I come back up here and we'll stop and we'll talk and have our conversations. But sometimes it'll be days before we have a conversation. And that's how it should be. We think that we are social animals, in the fact that we need people, we need to have that connection, we need to constantly be stimulated by somebody else and show them that we care and we love them and we're willing to have a conversation. It's not like that. That's all unhealed trauma based bullshit. That is nothing that in that is truth, fact, or reality. That is all reactionary ego survival mechanisms that cling on to people. We think it's love by doing these things, but it's virtue signaling, it's clinging on, it's putting that mask on. Even though we think we're being real and trying to have those conversations, still, you might need that conversation. Like when Brandon needs to talk, I'm here. If he needs to talk, I'm fucking here. If I need to talk, he's here. Shit, over the past year and a half, I talked his goddamn ear off as at the beginning of my journey here. I mean, terribly, because I was still in my head trauma too. So, recovering from that, the brain injury and everything. So, I was having a tough time and I talked his goddamn ear off. He's so kind to have been so patient with me and allow me to speak as much as I did before. But now that I've gotten over the brain injury, I'm more calm. I see the necessity to be by myself and just, not dump on him or anybody else that this is really just about me. And so, that's important to recognize that, love is not smothering people. Love is not, having to talk to somebody every time you walk into a room. Love is not feeling obligated to hold conversations. Like I said, if he needs to talk, he comes and I'll drop everything I'm doing and he can talk. And he'll do the same for me. But we're not just everything that comes to my head, I run down there and I'm like, blah, 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 I'm running my fucking face off, because that's taking his personal time and his necessary for his healing, and that's being selfish ultimately. And then to say we have such a tight relationship, we're like little buddies, no, that's fucking stupid, and you got to get over that shit. That's all horse shit. And then with Sammy, I text her. I haven't seen her in, God, it's been 6 months or more. I think it was like a month before her birthday, so yeah, it's been about 6 months or so since I've seen her. And I miss the fuck out of her. She lives about 45-50 minutes away, but she doesn't drive yet. But she needs her space. She knows what I'm doing over here. She knows what's happening over here. She knows the healing that's going on over here. She knows that we don't play loud music and we party down and we're cooking these crazy meals and doing all this stuff like family time, right? How we used to think family time was. We're no longer participating in those things. And she needs that stimulation. She needs that environment. She needs that interaction because she can't sit with herself because she's unable to face these things. She's not ready yet. So, she chooses not to be around, which is fine. There's no hostility. There's no harboring bad feelings there. It's all, again, just another thing that makes me so, feel so bad, because, she's at where she's at because of me. With her, I text her once a week. Once a week I text her and tell her I love her, I'm thinking about her, whatever, she texts me back. And then occasionally, we'll get into this texting chat for, about an hour or something, and that'll be it. But, she is not stepping on my toes. I'm not stepping on her. I'm not virtue signaling. I'm not pushing myself onto her and trying to, prove how much I love her by how much I'm trying to extend my time and effort to see. I'm not doing all that. That does nothing for anybody. All that is virtue signaling. And I'm not sitting here going, oh, I haven't seen her in 6 months. That's just martyrdom. It's all bullshit. And no, that's non-conducive to anybody's healing. So that's not happening. And so yeah, I just want to touch on that because I didn't touch on that in their videos about how we interact now. Again, all that love is there, but that love is the ability to give them their space, to recognize their own existence outside of me. They don't exist for me. They don't exist for any other reason, but for themselves. And they have to take care of themselves and address themselves and do what they need to do. Okay, so, and just like me, I got to do the same thing. So getting on Aiden. So Aiden, again, I got with his mom. I had a major brain injury, unhealed, undiagnosed, unrecognized, just drinking and partying my ass off at that time. And when she found out she was pregnant, she was probably like 4 months pregnant, and she wanted to have an abortion, and I told her, no, we can do this together. And again, that comes from my whole, I hate saying Christian upbringing because I was so far away from that horse shit, but it still had its tangles into me, you know what I mean? Like that programming, that Christian programming still had its tangles in me. Like not wanting her to regret an abortion and not wanting to give up on a life and not it happened for a reason and all that stupid horse shit. It happened because I put my dick in her and came inside of her. That's why it fucking happened. Not any other fucker, not divine intervention or divine reasoning or the universe has a plan. No, because of my fucking dumb, ignorant ass, he's here and suffering. And so anyway, so yeah, I had a major brain injury. His mom wanted to have an abortion. I talked her out of it. I said, we can do this together. and here we are now. With him, he was born, he's the most sensitive out of all of us, even all the cousins. I mean, we'd go up to my brother's house, and because his kids were all around my kids' age, so it was, just getting all the cousins together a few times a year for holidays and summer times and spring and all that shit. And he was by far the most sensitive out of all of them. He'd cry at the drop of a hat. He was very open and honest about, his thoughts and things, and he couldn't hold his emotions back. And, so he was very sensitive. And again, that is because, in a social environment like that, there, everybody can act tough and everything, but then there's going to be that one weak link in the environment. And I bring it back to, there's a lot of these indigenous cultures that will, when someone falls sick or ill or diseased in their community, in their tribe, the whole community comes to them and thanks them for taking that disease, because they understand, see, and this is the innate knowing that we have, that we're so out of touch with in these civilized societies that we live in, that they understand that disease and sickness, it falls onto the weakest person because it's the rest of the tribe. So basically the sickest person is taking that for the team. And so, and they come and thank them for taking that for the tribe. And that's how it works. That's how they know, that they innately know that society and how we're all connected works. And so, Aiden was the one in our family who took that sensitivity. And even though we're all sensitive, all of us are extremely sensitive in touch, but we all, like I said in Brandon's video, we put up those walls. We were fucking survival of the fittest motherfuckers. We were fucking, let's get it done. Let's just shut the fuck up and let's do it type of motherfuckers. You know what I mean? Play hard, party hard, work hard, that type of deal. So, he was the one that had to pay the price with that, with, ending up with the extra sensitivity. Sorry, I have a puzzle under here and it keeps on moving. It drives me crazy. It's that stupid OCD bullshit. He took all that sensitivity and was unable to hold it in and displayed it. And since I've been on this healing journey, he has now had seizures because, again, what I've come to recognize is, he's extremely intelligent. He's 15 now. He started having seizures at 14. He's extremely intelligent, so like all of this clicks. He understands it completely. Plus, he's younger than everybody else, so he understands. He's like, yeah. He's like, this makes total sense. It's fucking, this is the way it is. This is how it feels. This is exactly, makes perfect sense. And critical thinking definitely leads to all these conclusions. But the problem is that he lives up there with his grandfather. Well, he's supposed to be living with his mom, who I paid fucking child support to, fucking whore, but he actually stays with his grandfather who supports him. And, that whole environment up there, because his grandfather was the wrestling coach for Strasbourg, that town, for 12 years, and has been in wrestling his whole life. And, so he's got his own ideas about everything, you know what I mean? He's deeply ingrained into the system and the schooling and all of that bullshit. So, when he's up when he's up there, he has to conform, right? Plus he enjoys it because he's got a huge friend group. I mean, gigantic. The kid's got more friends than you could count, and people he associates with. Everybody knows him. So, and then he's highly addicted because he's buried all these emotional things that he refuses to talk about and get out. Because again, my fucking programming, my indoctrination into him of survival of the fittest. We don't talk about these things. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Just suck it up, buttercup. Do what you have to do. the past is the past. You got to move on. You know, all of that stupid shit. And because of that, he won't open up and get these things out. In fact, he's buried them, like I said in one of my other videos just recently about how I buried, oh, in Brandon's video, how I buried that memory of me not doing anything about Brandon's abuse, you know, 12 years ago, because you just bury it, and then you pretty much consciously forget about it, and you're unable to access it because you pile all those chemicals and toxins and those other bad things that happen. Everything just piles on top of it, and it gets lost in the sauce. And until you detox and start healing, then it can come out and be remembered and recognized through your consciousness. But all until then, it's affecting you subconsciously, constantly, and it affects the way you behave, you think, you act. So you know, he came here, and when I started opening up to him and about these things and these truths, he ran with it, and it became too much for him, because he realized when he would try to speak out up there that everybody laughed, scorned him, shut him down, told him he's crazy, everything else. So then, you know, a couple months after that is when he started having seizures, because again, the cognitive dissonance, right? And I didn't know anything about cognitive dissonance. I didn't know the effects it would have on your body or on your system. I didn't, I wasn't aware of these things. But I had been, I've always been on the truth journey and trying to search for the truth my whole life. Not trusting in authority or governments or anything else. And I've known about all of these as I've piled things up throughout my drunkenness existence, through adulthood. I never quit learning, never quit searching, never quit any of that shit. It's just I never had any, like Brandon was always like, Dad, why didn't you tell me about these things earlier? Because I didn't even open Brandon up to any of this until 5 years ago when he moved in with me and started working at the last real job I had. I was the head repair guy for a roofing company, and so he was my helper. He came and worked as my helper, and so we were spending all our days together. And I started opening up to him with all this stuff, and he was like, he'd be like, "Why didn't you ever?" And I'd just tell him, I'd be like, "Brandon, as I would learn these things from an older teenager all the way through my life, my young 20s, mid 20s, late 20s, early 30s, I would share with adults and get scorned, laughed at, told I was crazy, ignored, all of that. I was like, there was no way I was going to tell a young child these things and put them through that kind of fucking shit. You know what I mean? But little did I know I was saving them from cognitive dissonance, and which is what my son suffers from now when he comes down here. And, the last time he was here was when he had that seizure, and then his mom picked him up and had that seizure in the car on the way home, and it was in the emergency room. And so innately he is recognizing that his seizures are stemming from something here. And what it is it's the cognitive dissonance of knowing these things. So his whole story and how it relates to this child thing is very interesting, probably for a lot of people, because he's the one child I still have. Now, not only am I dealing, I have a joint custody with my ex with him, so I have, visitation. I get him all the time, but he's 15 now, and he just turned 15 recently in the past month, but when he was 14. So he decided he wasn't coming here. I allow him to make those decisions. He's 14. Any kid over 12, really, I mean, some kids mature even younger than that, are very, very, mature and know, and they can make those decisions at 10, 12 years old. But, he at 14, I was fine with him making those decisions. He can make those decisions whether he come to my house or not. I do not have to constantly berate him and text him and call him and tell him that I love him. And no, he's got a whole life up there. For me to fucking do that and just smother him in my attention is all egocentric for me. That would be all virtue signaling for me, and it would just stress him the fuck out and not mean a goddamn thing to him other than goddamn, and then it would make him feel obligated to get back to me, so that way I didn't feel like, oh, I'm so worried about you and all that stupid shit. No, you guys got to understand, love is letting go. Love is letting go. Clinging on, that's your ego. That's your survival instinct. That's your projection. That's your virtue signaling. That's your martyrdom. That's your all of that. It's all the fake bullshit is that clinging on stuff. So we have to let go. We have to be able to let go. We have to understand once our children get to a certain age, and if their addictions are set in, and we fed into those addictions, up until that age, 12 years old, and all of a sudden we want to change and they're not ready, well, we got to treat them with kid gloves. We abusively taught them how to indulge in all of these poisons, all these toxins, all these distractions, all these dopamine hits, all these breads and circuses. We cannot abusively teach them how to heal. Those are oxymorons. They butt heads. They don't go together. You cannot abusively teach somebody how to heal. You can't force healing onto these kids. It's impossible. It's wrong. It's not to be done. Because even if they comply, they comply because they know they have to comply with your shit. But it's not ingrained in them. That means that they're just putting on their mask in front of you and just going along to get along. But behind your back, they're going to do it. They're going to believe and do whatever they want, and they're actually going to rebel and fucking go even harder into these things. So, and again, you have to remember, like I said in Sammy's video, that this all has to start with you. You have to be the lead in this. Your kids don't give a fuck what you say. You have to be the example. You have to set the example. You need to quit running your goddamn mouth, your goddamn cocksucker. You need to quit running that fucking thing. You need to close it, and you need to start just acting accordingly. And then your kids pick up on that. And then they will change accordingly. They will be interested. They will start asking you questions. Now, if you have younger kids, this is different. For younger kids, this is different. And I actually have somebody who just opened up and said I could make a video on their situation with their kids right now, which is awesome because they have young kids. And that's a completely different situation. That is, man, so many different scenarios when you got kids. But yeah, that's cool. So I'll be making that video after this one. But so with a 15-year-old, with a 14-year-old, with a kid over 12, now some kids are not that mature at that age, so you do have to really, really parent them, more closely. But instead of just forcing them to do things, you got to be that example. You have to set that path for them, just like you set the path of destruction and propaganda and slavery for them. You have to set the new path for them. And handle them with kid gloves, with gentleness, calmness, comfortableness, ease, safety. These are the things that you need to do. If you have an older kid who's like 12, 14, 15, 16, and they're like the clingy, timid, can't make decisions types and want to be led, you can't just say, well, this is what we're doing now. Bah! You got to explain yourself. They're old enough. By the time they're 12, they're old enough to understand anything. Anything you got for them at 12 years old, you better fucking, that you're holding on to and you're like, oh, I don't want to talk to him about that. I don't think he'll understand. You better get out of your ignorant ass and understand that he understands every fucking thing. Or she understands everything. Little Johnny and little Susie understand every fucking thing at 12 years old. And a lot of these Johnnies and Susies understand everything at 9, 10 years old. And these younger kids, 7, 6 years old, they empathically understand. So, number one, guys, we got to be honest and quit lying to these kids. And we got to be completely open with them. But we have to set that example and pave that new path for them. So with Aiden, so he chooses, he understands, but I've realized the power of that cognitive dissonance. So, when he does come back down here again, I just got to be I still haven't figured this out myself, man. Because I'm not, see, even when he was down here last time, I wasn't stressing him out. It's just we were watching videos on nutrition and how things affect you. We weren't even, there was no dialogue really. It was just watching videos. He was fine. Everything was fine. It's just even that was just too much for him because he knows that he's doing the wrong thing, and then watching and getting proof of what these chemicals and these parasites are doing to his brain and everything else. It's just too much for these children that truly understand if they're still participating. So, it's a weird fucking place to be at with him. So he hasn't had a seizure since, except for when he left with his mom. Right after he left, he hasn't had another seizure. He's been doing fine. He went to states for wrestling. He got placed in states. He went to a Virginia wrestling states tournament and placed there. So he's under a lot of pressure. He's extremely busy under a lot of pressure, and is doing everything. It's just if you add in that one thing of how that's the wrong way, and in doing these things is, man, it's just too much. It's just too much. So I have to be respectful and of him, and understand that I am responsible, that he's even in the situation that he's in, and that he's even addicted to the things that he's addicted to, and that he's even made these habits and these dopamine hits and these coping mechanisms like he has, is because of a product of me. So I can't force anything, because I wanted to take his mom to court. I wanted to fucking take her ass to court and fucking do all that, man. I didn't want to, but I wanted to just fucking bury his mom in court so that way I could save him. But there's no saving him. He doesn't want to be saved, is what I'm trying to say. Like, he has the option at 15 to tell a judge he wants to come live here, but he doesn't want that. He's got his whole friend group that he's grown up with for the past 11 years in 12 years in Strasbourg. So he doesn't want to be torn away from that. He doesn't want to be torn away from all the kids that he's been doing athletics with, all the kids he's been going to school with, all the friends he hangs out with and rides bikes around town and does all the crazy shit kids do around small towns. He doesn't want to be torn away from all that. You know what I mean? So I have to respect that. I can't force my will, because I love him so much, onto him. These are his choices, and I have to respect his choices. Even though I know what's better for him, it's too late for me to start making those better choices for him. He's been making his own choices. Yes, even though he's under the influence of adults up there, he's still pretty much making his own choices, because he spends a lot of time, without adult supervision. And he makes his choice on what he wants to do. So, I can't think I'm going to be that hero and take his mom to court and be the righteousness in his life and be his savior and point him on the right path and all that bullshit, because it's all horseshit. It would all be virtue signaling for me. It would all be forcing it onto him. It wouldn't be a true desire and yearning and wanting from him. I can't bring him here, lock him in a closet, and force him to heal. Which reminds me, I should do a video on my niece and my nephew, how I affected their lives too. Because that'd probably be a good one. Yeah, so how else would he wrap up into all this? What other examples can I give? And I'm here for him. Like, he got a hold of me 3 weeks ago or so, and man, we got into a deep deep conversation, because again, I text him once a week, twice a week, maybe twice a week. I love him. I hope he's doing good. Da 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 da. And but he got a hold of me about 3 weeks ago, and we had gotten in a deep conversation because these teachers give him a lot of shit at school, and he's probably autistic, probably ADHD, probably he's definitely sensitive, definitely got these issues, has fucking seizures now, questions everything, doesn't let anything go by, has no problem questioning authority, because again, I taught my kids, fuck all authority, fuck them all. You fucking stand up for yourself and you fucking question everything, and that's what I taught my kids, and so they all do it. And Aiden doesn't fuck around, man. So he's high school freshman, and he's on first name basis with the principal. He goes in there all the fucking time into the principal's office and deals with situations with teachers and everything else. And he thinks so critically, he thinks so deeply, and he breaks things down to the root that they cannot even argue with him. They can't have a conversation with him. And he told me in that conversation I had with him, because he's like, Dad, he's like, I think I got this. He's like, but I just want to let you know this is crazy. I mean, the thing, there's nobody else. Out of the whole high school, I mean, there's nobody else like this kid, man. This kid's a diamond in the rough when it comes to this shit, because he doesn't give a fuck. He fucking says what needs to be said. And, but he won't talk, man. He won't talk about his emotional issues that are at the core of him. He's not ready to face it yet, man. But, yeah, so, he told me the other day when we had that conversation, he's like, man, it's crazy, Dad. He's like, they can't argue with me. He's like, they refuse to hold a conversation. He's like, they'll have a conversation with me, but as I point out the facts and the reality of the situations, they just have to go, well, we're the teachers. Well, this is what the school board said. Well, this is, and he's like, it's just so fucked up. He's like, I feel like a prisoner. He's like, because it doesn't matter what truth, fact, reality is. They're literally on a set program, and it's just all about compliance, and so yeah, man, it's a wild ride. I'm not sure what else I can bring out about his situation. Again, I guess the biggest thing about that would be that, at 14, 15 years old, guys, you've got to give your kids space. You have to respect them, because they've already become a dopamine fiend. They've already become an addict to the screens. They've already become found their coping mechanisms. They've already buried so much emotional abuse and trauma that you've placed on them or been responsible for not protecting them from, that they won't talk about or recognize. They won't even remember, because again, they've hidden this stuff since they were 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old, and they buried it so deep, and you never provided that safe space for them to talk about it. And now, years later, you can't just expect them to just place fairy dust over their heads, and all of a sudden they're just going to open up about these things. It's not going to happen. So yeah, I guess this would be, if you got teenagers, respect them, be completely open, honest, let them know everything. Don't hide a goddamn thing. If you walk into a room and they're like, what's wrong? Tell them what's wrong. Don't say nothing. Go into these things, be honest with them, because, again, they only respect what they see us do. They only care about what we do. They don't care about what we say. They care about what we say when we're honest and open ourselves and vulnerable to them. But when we're trying to be egotistical or put up a front or tell them half truths, they don't give a fuck. They see right through it, and they don't respect us for it. So Yeah, leave your comments, leave your questions, leave your own experiences, stories, things that you're doing. Again, I'll be sharing stories I have. The next one I'm getting ready to do. If I don't do my niece and nephew, I'll probably do this person that got a hold of me first, and then I'll do my niece and nephews, because I haven't really thought about that yet at all. Uh, so yeah, um, that's pretty much it. If you guys have anything to add or question about, or need me to go further into, or points you would like to delve deeper into, just leave a comment and we'll get into it. I hope this helps anybody and encourages people and lets them see that this is very simple. It's just we have to be courageous. We have to take personal responsibility. We have to be disciplined. We have to be courageous. We have to be honest in all things. And by doing that, we set the example for our kids, because we have to lead with our example. We need to quit running our fucking cocksuckers, and we need to fucking set the example. So take care of yourselves, guys. Nobody else will.